Okay. So this episode's going to be a little bit on the fly. I wasn't expecting to record, but when I got this morning, I knew I had to because it's my first one ever. Um, this morning, I received a review for Irma, and it's my first ever review. Nobody's ever reviewed my films. I mean, people have in their head, but this is like an actual written article from a critic who's been reviewing films for festivals and stuff like that for like, I don't know, 20 years and stuff like that. So yeah, I wanted to do an episode just reacting to my first review. I've read it already, and I was very excited this morning. But I just wanted to. I haven't read it again just to try to get it as fresh as possible, and I guess I'll just talk about my feelings through what he said, or things I just want to elaborate on. Um, we like to believe that all things broken can be repaired. They can't. We like to believe that love, or at least the desire to love, heals everything. It doesn't. Irma, a 13-minute short film written and directed by Roger Torres that has already been named a semi-finalist in the Student Academy Awards narrative category, is a devastating short. It's a film that communicates more in its under 13-minute running time than a good amount of narrative features I've seen this year. Bro, I can't record this. I feel like I'm gonna just be blushing the whole time. Um, Set to screen as part of the Dissolving Dream Shorts package at Virginia Film Festival later this month, Irma is appropriately layered and complex film with Torres' emotionally raw dialogue saying as much in the film's silences as it does when the words are spoken. The story itself is beautifully framed, yet seems to intentionally demand that we wonder and allow our imaginations to fill in the blanks. It is seemingly obvious what is unfolding, however, we're not so much privy to the details as we are their aftermath. Uh, I haven't continued reading, I'm just speechless. You know, I feel like, film can be pretty isolating. There's often, not just myself, but I know anybody that does this, you feel sort of like an imposter sometimes. I think everybody has a sense that they are good at what they do. Otherwise, why would we do this? There is that innate feeling that I'm supposed to do this and I want to do this more than anything. And you follow that, but when you follow this path, you are led to a lot of rejection, criticism, and it feels pretty self-isolating sometimes to constantly be told no, or that you're just not quite good enough yet. So to be reading stuff like this is, I mean, I've been thinking about this review all day. you know Gastelum is both broken and ferocious as Melissa, a wounded warrior whose every flinch feels like an internalized jump scare, and yet whose protectiveness of Lydia draws us in near and never lets us go. Somehow it's both a raw yet understated performance that leaves us constantly wondering where this all can possibly end. Shout out to Maria. Maria was the first actress I saw as Melissa. It was the first in-person audition I've ever done too, so it's a funny story in hindsight. But when Maria walked in the room, I knew it was her, and I tried my best. I tried my best to not cast Maria. I remember I auditioned other Melissas, being like, "There's no way it's the first person." She set the bar, and I was hoping after that we would see somebody that was better or just more fitting for the role. And we called her back twice, and every time I was like almost trying to not like her. um, just because I was like, again in my head, I was like, there's no way it's the first actor. Somebody's gonna walk through eventually, and they're gonna be the right person. And I remember Anna pulling me to the side, or we were texting something like that. But I remember Anna telling me like, "Why are you overthinking this so much?" She was like, "You obviously know it's her," and I finally just allowed myself to accept it. Like, it is Maria. There's no like hocus pocus magic going on. Like, it was just chance that the best one just walked in right away, and we cast her, and like the rest is history, as this guy said. I love Maria's performance in the film. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention young Jasmine Valenzuela, the emotional core of Irma, a young actress whose work here deserves to have Hollywood knocking on her door. She's raw and vulnerable with an intuition that mesmerizes and a soulful intelligence that reminds us the price we pay when cycles aren't broken. Yeah, I feel like in marketing and all the things we've done for the film, I haven't talked about Jasmine enough, but that little girl saved us legitimately. Like 2 weeks before production, there was two actresses in talks to be Lydia. One was in Philadelphia. She was a great actress, but we would have to fly her out, and we were super duper tight on budget. And I didn't want to fly her out, but I was willing to do it if it meant that the actress who plays the little girl would be good. And then the other one, there was another one in talks to play Lydia as well. But her agent, right when I was about to book her, pulled the plug, and he said, well, I'm not going to allow her to do this. Essentially, what happened is I have to make a whole episode about what it took to make Irma. But around that time, my house got flooded, and I was going through a lot of personal things. And like admittedly, my communication at that point was not fast. I was dealing with a lot of life, and we were trying to schedule an in-person audition with the little girl, and I guess I just responded so slow. The guy emailed me like at 6 p.m. and I replied to him at 9 a.m. the next day. And he said, because of this poor communication, I will not, I've officially pulled this actress from the casting process. And I remember calling my mom and just like, it sounds like the Student Academy episode again. I remember calling my mom and just like crying for like an hour because I was like 100% sure at the time that that little girl was the one because she was so good. She was nearby, so we wouldn't have to fly her out. And based on her reel, I could tell that she could do it. And when she got pulled, it was just like, it was one of those things where everything is just going wrong. And I didn't know how the film was going to recover. So we made a quick call to Russell Bose, who worked for CSA, I think. He's some casting director, big casting director in Hollywood, and he works for our school. He put out a few emails to people that he knows in the industry, and we discovered Jasmine. And we actually didn't audition Jasmine, if I remember. We just talked to her like on Zoom. We had like a little interview with her, and I just knew she was it. It was me and Anna. I think I still have that footage actually. We just talked to her, and I was just like, yeah, this little girl is right. I couldn't tell you why, but I just knew. And thank God, because she was awesome on set, and she's great in the movie too. It's a devastating decision, of course, yet for many of us watching, it's a no doubt familiar one. Everything that Torres does here works from the slight, intentional dialogue filled with meaningful silences and devastating pauses to take your breath away, moments of suspense and suffocating anxiety. Lensing by Oniichi Ogamaka leaves us constantly off balance and never quite sure of how a scene is going to play out. The original music by Kyle Simpson amplifies the film's dueling intimacies and dark unknowns. Production design by Isabella Campillo leaves us constantly torn between safety and the awareness that there's always a risk in the dark. I mean, shout out to my team, man. I can't speak enough about any of these guys. I will say Irma was my first time working with a composer. I had never scored something originally, so I know a lot about composition music because I listen to it a lot, but I've never. I guess one thing I was scared of when we were starting is I didn't know how to articulate what I wanted the film to sound like. I just sent examples of instruments I thought I liked, and it ended up being nothing like the original work that I pitched Kyle. But we went back and forth on what I wanted it to sound like, or specifically one thing Kyle was really good at is he told me, don't worry what it sounds like, just tell me what it feels like. So he got me out of my head of like not thinking about instruments or like should it be higher or lower or sadder or whatever. He just told me like what is the emotion you're going for here, and we just kept iterating on until I felt like that feeling was right. And Lord knows I pushed him. We did like a ton of revisions, and eventually it came back. But I tried to keep the score as understated as possible, just because hopefully I get to put it on YouTube one day. Right now, Irma is in its festival run, but yeah, I was very cautious to not put too much music in the film. I wanted the performances of the actors to just carry it the whole time, and I just wanted Kyle to gently push an emotion when we needed it. I didn't want the purpose of the music to be like I didn't want the audience to notice they were listening to music, and I hope we did that. So, Irma in the end is a wisely brought to life story with no easy answers and wounds that may or may not heal. Cycles are cycles, and yes, sometimes the wounds never heal, and we're left to decide over and over again what we're going to do next to simply survive. Irma is a devastating effort. However, it's devastating in a way that honors the complex journey of abusive cycles, rich humanities, and the complex layers of healing. A film you soon won't forget. Irma is a film to watch if it shows at a festival near you. I don't know if I've like formally talked about it on the channel. I think I did in the first vlog when Joel was interviewing me, like that point where I was ironing my clothes. But obviously, the film is inspired by a real life event from watching my mom and my grandmother when I was growing up, and something I've been thinking a lot about, even more so after the festivals and like there's an article written about my grandmother. Um, it's just I just hope she's proud, you know. Like I don't even know the full extent of her story. I probably will never. But like just from what I've witnessed and what I've heard, there's a reason it stuck with me for so long. And like this guy said, like some wounds never heal. And you know, I don't know if I've ever quite healed from what I saw or what happened, but I can say through the process of making this film, I feel like my relationship with her has gotten a lot stronger. And something I'm super proud of now is that when we say her name now, there's a light to it. It's no longer like this shadow cast over it. It's just so much. Irma has brought so many beautiful things to my life. And, even though it came from a pretty weird place, and one day I'll probably tell that story more intimately, not through a film, but just through like talking like this. I'm super grateful that I opened myself up to tell this story. And I think one thing I could just encourage filmmakers to do is just rip open that shit, man. Rip open that dark shit inside you. Like that's where all the good stuff is. That's where you find your voice. I know people, and a lot of times in film school they encourage us to watch films because you need to be a cinephile to make movies. And to a degree, I think that's correct. You do need to know techniques and how people have done things in terms of like techniques. Like how does somebody shoot an action scene? How does somebody shoot a dialogue scene? How do they make that scene interesting visually? But even more so, I think what's more important is to find your voice. And I don't believe you find that watching movies or reading books and stuff like that. I feel like you find your voice when you dig into your own life. Something in my first year that completely changed the trajectory. Something I read in my first year that changed the trajectory of how I was going to make films at Chapman, because originally I came into Chapman wanting to be more so of an action director. Like I'm not old, I was going to say in my youth, in my teenage years when I was shooting with my friends, Joel and stuff like that, we were always shooting like action scenes and fight scenes and movies like that. But when I came into Chapman, we took this, I hope you can't hear that car outside. We took this class called Story, and there was this quote in the book, and then, like I remember it really. I still remember it to this day. It said, "Each filmmaker makes the same film over and over again. The key is to find like what's the underlying theme that connects all those movies." And I started thinking about it, and all the stuff I was writing, that was like true things that I wanted to make. I was looking at what is it really about, and yeah, I started seeing what he was saying. It was like, okay, I keep talking about this idea of broken connections. Like that was mine. Or like these connections that I never felt like I got to have in my life, or connections that I never got to fully explore. And so many of my films in Chapman, all the people that are watching this are gonna know exactly what I'm talking about. So many of those films at Chapman was made trying to explore things that I never had, and Irma was made with that same intent, because I never really got to know my grandmother, but I always wanted to, and I made the film not as a homage to her. I don't even know why, but I just knew I had to do it, and that theme of broken connection is still there, and it probably will be in. Oh no, I know for sure it will be in the next coming projects and stuff like that. But I wouldn't have been able to make Irma if I didn't do the inward work of figuring out what is it that I want to say about life, or what is it that, like, in my circumstance, in the universe, God, whatever you believe in, the cards I was dealt, what does it point towards me talking about? And for me, it's broken connections, like 100% things I never got or things I wish I had. And yeah, I think with if I didn't do that work, I wouldn't have been able to make Irma. There's no amount of movies or books or music I could have listened to that would have inspired me to make the story, because no one could tell the story the way I could, especially after the work I've done to be able to be vulnerable enough to tell it. And so seeing the way it's resonating with people now, it's like the best risk of my life, you know? Last thing I'll say, and I was thinking of this on my way here. Um, and this is probably more advice towards me, but still I think it's applicable to somebody out there, is especially in this field, when you have something like this, something good, just make sure you enjoy it. Because a thing I did wrong with the Student Academy news and stuff like that is the semifinalist news came in, and that was great, but my mind jumped immediately to how do we get to finals, how do we win, and stuff like that. And I robbed myself of a lot of joy because I was so worried about what came next versus just enjoying what I have now. And in this fucking field, man, I you literally never know when the next piece of good news is coming in, because we've been rejected a lot of times, and then I woke up today randomly to a review that just like lit up my whole mood, because I felt like myself. I felt like a filmmaker. And like, you don't always feel like that. You always feel like when you're getting those rejections, you feel like a filmmaker that's not good enough. But today I felt confident. I was like, no, I am good at what I do. And those days are rare. So believe me, I've just been trying to soak it in and enjoy it. And obviously tomorrow it's back to one. But, getting my first film reviewed, I might print this shit out. But yeah, man, just enjoy it. I guess the next vlog you'll be seeing is, unless I think of something random to talk about in between, but I am going to the Virginia Film Festival, so I'll be vlogging that in my experience. And then after that, at some point, I should be able to announce what's the festival we're attending in New York. So that's a very special episode coming, and I can't wait to shoot that one. So thank y'all for watching. I need to get better at closing this shit. Thank y'all for watching. I'll see you in the next one, bro.